Good afternoon, everybody. Saturday afternoon. Uh, Looks like I'm going to have to just dive into this. I've been encouraged by a lot of people to start making my own videos. Unfortunately, I don't have the expertise that it requires to put on a good flashy presentation. So I'll be doing it this way for a while until I can endeavor to take the time to sit down and learn some of the basics of the technology, and then I'll be able to maybe give you a better presentation than what you're going to get today or maybe in the following days. But I've been urged, like I say, to do this. Also, the White Hat team has been pushing for this, so I guess I'm going to bite the bullet and start releasing some videos. Hopefully I can do something on the order of maybe 2 or 3 a week, maybe every other day, something like that. But one thing I do want to talk about just briefly today, it was the interview with Jason Goodman and John Collin. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to say everything I wanted to say. I had a lot of notes. I spent quite a bit of time going through Colin's videos, going through the autopsies, and there's just, well, I think reading the comments on Jason's channel, I think the majority of people got it. They understood it. And I had a lot more to say. I had a lot more things to go over. I had a lot more issues to raise, but I wasn't able to do that. So I think probably this forum is going to be a better way to get those things out. And I really hesitate to take anyone on like I did with John Collin, because it just really serves no purpose other than, I guess, maybe for the entertainment value, and maybe confirms what other people had already suspected about him. And I think, I mean, I really don't need to go into that. I think it should be apparent to everybody my feelings on the matter. And I think, based on the comments, like I said, that the majority of the people understood it and got it, and that's fine. So now we're going to move on. We're going to move on to other things. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this Vegas thing because I have, I usually see these events that happen. I mean, the Florida shooting, Las Vegas, various issues that come on the news, and I usually sort of dive in the beginning and take a look and make some sort of an assessment, and then, move on, because the script is typically the same. And of course the media, they give it away by the way they cover things. You learn as much what they don't cover as what they do cover. And then, of course, all you got to do is take a few hours to check some alternative sites on YouTube, and you can actually get the truth, and you get the real facts, and then you can move on. And this Vegas thing has been an issue that's kind of bothered me from the beginning, the way it was handled. I watched the initial, I guess I watched all of them. I don't know how many there were, all the news conferences that Sheriff Lombardo put on from the beginning to all the way up to October 13th, Friday the 13th, and then silence. They went dark. And, I kept expecting the big deluge of gun control and, all the things. Essentially, I expected to see what we are seeing now with the Florida shooting. I expected to see that times 10. I mean, you got 58 people killed. They're reporting 58 people killed. And I don't know what the numbers are as far as the wounded. I thought it was 500, but maybe it's 400. But anyway, you're looking at that many people killed and wounded, and based on the background of Paddock with all the guns and all the ammunition and the things that were found in his residence in Mesquite, and the things that were found supposedly in Reno, and in his van and everything, I mean, you know, what a perfect setup to pursue gun control, to take our guns. I mean, that's the objective, and I still feel like that's the objective. I mean, all the evidence that we see, or that they want us to see, points to that. I mean, you've got all the ammunition to use for automatic weapons, for bump stocks, for, you know, whatever. So anyway, I sort of, you know, they went dark after the 13th of October, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to go on about my business. We had some things on the White Hats reports that we started getting geared up for. As if any of you that have been following us on the White Hats reports, we've been exposing some major things about the Federal Reserve, and we started that campaign, if you will, before Christmas, and so my focus shifted to that, and then we have the autopsy controversy. We have the FIT report that was released. We have the search warrant that was released. Then Paddock's autopsy that was released. So, and I read this stuff and I'm thinking, gosh, I just hate for my intelligence to be insulted. That just drives. There's nothing more grating to me than that. So I read the FIT report and I'm like, come on, guys, are you really going to give us this? Are you really going to try this? And in some of my talks with Jason Goodman before we did the video the other night, you know, this harkens back to Dulles when when they were trying to decide whether they were going to release copies of the Warren Commission report, and Dulles said, yeah, go ahead. Nobody reads anything anyway. Wrong. You're wrong, Alan. Everybody reads. Not everybody, but a lot of people read. So ever since then, I read these things. I read the FIT report. I read the autopsies. Read the search warrant. Read Paddock's autopsy. And there's just a lot of things wrong. A lot of things that are just terribly wrong. And then when you look at Sheriff Lombardo's body language, his attitude, his demeanor in the press conferences, it gives a lot away. Then you look at the coroner and how much he fought releasing these autopsies, and you got to think, why? Well, what's going on? So then they release the autopsies, and of course they're redacted, and we're missing ballistics, and we're missing photographs, and we're missing x-rays, and we're missing diagrams, and we're missing toxicology. I mean, we're missing a lot of things, and I wonder if that court order, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I will. I wonder if that court order says release everything. I mean, when you say release an autopsy, to me that means the autopsy, the total autopsy, which includes those items and more that I just mentioned. And what do we get? We get these, I guess they're reports, anywhere from, I think the smallest one was 3 pages and the longest one was 8 pages. But that's not the full autopsy. Like I say, there are missing items, and the ballistics one is the biggest one. And ballistics will tell you what caliber of bullet it was, and then you're going to be able to, based on the fragments, if you have enough fragments, you can match that to a gun, to the rifle, to the handgun, to the barrel. There are, I forget what they're called, strafings or styrations or whatever they're called in that barrel that's unique to every barrel of a gun, and they're going to be left on the bullet, and they're going to be able to take those bullets, and they're going to be able fragments, and they're going to be able to match it to the weapons. So when I look at an autopsy, and I'm scheduling this autopsy, and every time I go through it, I see more and more things that are strange. So I still have some more work to do as far as getting all that information together, but there are at least, I think, 36 wounds of the 67 where there wasn't an exit wound, which means, the body contained the evidence that you need to match up the ballistics. And there were other wounds where there were exit wounds, but some of the bullet fragments were in the body that they recovered. So it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's not difficult to match up the ballistics. And they should be in there. I mean, this would be a slam dunk. You should be able to match the bullets recovered from the bodies to the weapons found in the 35th or 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Case closed. But we don't see that. We don't see any of that. So something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong. And I have a feeling that something in the operation went wrong. And anytime that there's a false flag or one of these operations, you got to understand that these they sit down and they plan it all out and they try to cover every possible contingency, but you just can't. There's no way you can, because something's going to go wrong. Something is going to happen because everybody's got free will. People are going to react to certain things in a certain way. I mean, you just can't cover every contingency. So, but that's not a problem, because as long as you've got somebody waiting to cover it all up, the coroner, the sheriff, whoever, then you don't really have to worry too much about it. And we see that all over the place. I mean, we can look at 9/11, we can look at JFK, we can look at Sandy Hook, we can look at all these events, and you can see where things went wrong. And people that if you want to dig into it and you want to go deep enough, you're gonna find out. You're gonna get information that they're not telling you about. But as long as you can control the investigation, you can control it from that standpoint, then nothing's going to happen. Eventually, nothing's going to happen. And, they keep running this same program, the patsy, and the patsy dies. They either shoot themselves or they shoot the patsy. And so what this does is it prevents a court trial, which means that all this quote-unquote evidence that they present to the public to prove, quote-unquote, prove who did it, and in this case Paddock, it never sees the light of day, essentially, in a courtroom where it gets to be examined and cross-examined and go through discovery and go through all the evidentiary procedures that it needs to go through to prove one way or the other whether Paddock did it or not in this case. So anyway, long story short, I keep reading this stuff and I keep getting pulled back into it, so I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna dive into it, and it's gonna be a slow process. I mean, I just got to tell you. I mean, typically when I've done these before, you usually have one person, one homicide victim, 2, maybe 3. This time we've got 58. So there's a lot of stuff to go through, and I'm a detailed person, because it's, the devil is in the details. And so I'm going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. I'm going to schedule everything out. And in doing that process, it will reveal things. It will reveal anomalies. It will reveal inconsistencies. And then those are the things that you look at. That basically gives you a roadmap in which direction you want to go. So the first thing is the autopsy. The second thing then is going to be Paddock. And I've already started to do some things on Paddock. Very strange. Oh, gosh, that's another rabbit hole to go down, to dive down deep. So anyway, I just wanted to get this out. I noticed that there were comments on the Jason video where a lot of people indicated they would like to have heard more from me, or they would like to have more of me. So I really didn't get an opportunity to say all that I wanted to say, but I think the point was made, and that's really all that matters. I think, unfortunately, it took 3 hours to get to that point. But anyway, I will try to keep these updates. That's what I'm going to just call them, updates. I think I'll try to keep these updates within 30 minutes, unless there's something that's important that takes me a little bit more time than 30 minutes to go over. But I'll try to keep them short. That way it won't take up 3 hours of your time or 2 hours of your time. If there are things that I think need to be talked about, I'll maybe do it in 2 parts or whatever. But I'll try to keep them to around 20 or 30 minutes. And I want to thank all of you for following our website. If you've followed us since we made our first report, posted our first report in November of 2010. or if you've just a new viewer, if you're a new subscriber to the YouTube, and I'm not, believe me, I'm not very technically oriented to this, so it's going to take me a little bit of time, but hopefully I'll be able to do this so that it will be manageable from the standpoint that I will be able to use a screen share, figure out how to use a screen share so that you will be able to see some of the things that I'm talking about, because I do think that enhances everything. Because when I talk about certain things, I want to be able to show you the words that they're using, say, for example, in the autopsy, so you understand fully what I'm talking about. I can point out the inconsistencies better visually than I can just explain it, because I know nobody wants to go pull up the autopsies and pull up, autopsy 34 or 52 or 21 and then have to go through it and stop the video and then restart it again to catch up. So I will endeavor to do that, hopefully within the next few days. I'll be able to get that figured out, and I will be able then to present something that's worthwhile. So anyway, I appreciate everyone's patience. I appreciate your following the White Hats reports, and then, like I say, if you're a new subscriber or a new listener, then welcome aboard. I think it's going to be a wild ride. There are a lot of things happening overall. At this point in time, we are hoping that since Iraq got their budget approved, the second reading today, that will precipitate a major announcement by Trump sometime this week. And if that happens, that we'll be talking more about that also. But primarily, I'll be doing most of the stuff that I'm going to be dealing with will be the Vegas shooting. We're going to go down that rabbit hole and take that ride. So anyway, hope everyone has a nice, happy, safe weekend, and we will see you next time. Paladin out.